Hey Sketchy friends, so in today's video we're continuing with the Sketch Gaudi with Me series where we're building the sketchbook spread, and this is how it is looking so far. I'm actually really pleased with it. Again, I had no real plan, to be honest with you, but I think it's coming together quite nicely, so let's just try and not ruin it, hey? So this is the building that I would like to add to the top left-hand corner of the spread. Now I know this picture looks quite overwhelming, but again we're going to simplify it and we're going to look for the basic shapes. So I've got the image on my iPad here just because I really want to try and emphasize what I'm talking about here. So when I'm looking at this, I'm seeing like a rectangle here basically, which then can be subdivided into other rectangles, and you can see I'm like really oversimplifying this, but this is kind of what I see when, and it indeed might be what I even do when I'm drawing in pencil, just to get these basic shapes down, just to kind of understand that I'm getting the vague sense of proportion correct. And I say vague because I'm not one to like agonize over it too much. As long as it's kind of right, then that's all you need for a nice sketch, you know. You actually don't need to get it completely right at all. And then, you know, we've got these really nice sweeping curves here. And I just want you to pay attention to the perspective where it's shorter here and then longer here. And if you emphasize that, bam, like that, and then bam, like that, it makes it look really dynamic and it really draws you into the picture. So again, we start short over here and we bring this arch out, and then we bring this one so it's wider at the edge here. So it makes it look really dramatic. And then again, we've got these lines coming off. So these are called leading lines. They're all lines that are leading us into the picture. And again, they don't have to be perfect. And then we want to get this like sort of triangular shape of foliage here. That's fine, we can just indicate that. And then probably just some of these like horizontal lines for the steps here as well. Those will be kind of important. They're going to be tricky, but we can just indicate them very loosely. You know, my objective here is going to be to keep it relatively loose. Obviously we've got some more foliage up here, depends how much space we've got on the sketchbook spread. And I really like this checkerboard thing, so that will definitely be indicated as well. And we do have this nice dark arch here, which could bring some nice darkness into and contrast into the picture. And look for these, you know, dark areas in here as well. I could put some people in it. I might just indicate a few people if I feel like it. Let's see how this goes. Obviously some more checkerboards over here and the foliage. But yeah, that's, you know, that's how I see this scene, and that's how I'm going to put my marks in pencil. Not as much as this, but just looking for those key shapes. And yeah, let's see how we go from there. But I thought it might be useful to break it down like this, just so you guys can kind of understand what I'm thinking when I'm drawing something like this. Okay, so here we go. I've sped this up a bit so you don't have to watch it in real time, but I'm using my mechanical pencil now, focusing on this top left corner of my page, and I'm kind of just doing what I kind of showed in the iPad video. I'm looking for these basic shapes. I'm not worried about too much detail. I just want to get in the shapes in this space so that I can make sure that I can fit in my drawing when I move to pen. So I'm trying to ignore any of the details really, and just trying to get in the outlines of the basic shapes. And you know, things like perspective, like those U shapes on the right hand side of the wall, starting them smaller and thinner in the background, and then as they come forward they get bigger and wider. Little details like that, even though it's very simple, is really going to help bring your sketch or make it just look more authentic. Even though we're going for like a quick loosish impression of this building, it's still, those little details really help. So here I am deciding to use my Twasabi Eco fountain pen, just for no particular reason, just a bit of variation. I really like this fountain pen because it doesn't matter how long it sits unused, whenever I pick it up it still works, which I can't say for all of the fountain pens that I own. So that's why I really like this one. I just know that it works even if I haven't picked it up for a few months. And this is I think it's the extra fine nib, and yeah, it is quite a fine line, which is quite nice to draw with. So you can see I'm not labouring over the top of this building. It is a bit tricky, but I'm just trying to get the idea of it, and that is the whole concept of quick, loosish sketching and making an impression is not going too crazy with the details, but just kind of getting an impression of what's there. And you can see just quick little squiggles for the shape of foliage. I'm just putting in that kind of checkerboard effect on the wall on the right hand side. And then back to this main building, which could really, you could sort of agonize over for quite some time if you were so inclined, which is probably what I would have used to have done. But yeah, I find over time you kind of learn how to make shorthand versions of things where it still looks like the thing, but you haven't had to spend ages figuring out all those angles. So whilst I appreciate it's probably not exactly right with the photo, it's a trade-off. If you want to create a quick impression of something, you can't spend too long sketching all the exact details. You just need to indicate the thing, and that's really quite a skill to learn, but it's super useful. So again, putting this wall in the left with those U shapes and little squiggles for the top of the foliage, just so I know where that goes. Definitely not getting the quite right perspective on those stairs, but again, I'm not too fussed. It's just a quick impression, and overall the finished sketch looks like the scene. So, I'm not going to get too much into the nitty gritty. I'm pretending like I'm out travel sketching in Barcelona. I just want to get something on my page within, under an hour, really. A nice finished sketch under an hour of a scene like this. I would be really happy with this. So obviously I've sped this up again so you guys don't have to sit through it in real time. But I think overall this probably took me about 45 minutes. And that's with sort of some thinking, and here I'm just erasing some of the most obvious pencil lines with my kneadable eraser. And just adding in a few bits with ink that I might have missed, just indicating that there's a few other poles back there, a few other columns, just to show that there's some depth in this building, but again, not drawing everything. That's the key really. How much can you just indicate so that you can get an idea of what's back there, but you don't have to draw everything. And you see how loose and sketchy that ink drawing is. And now I'm going to bring it to life with some watercolour. So again, using my new paints, the Rosa watercolours, I'm going to do a video on those soon. And my new palette. I've never tried a palette like this before, but quite enjoying it so far. Getting my big brush, my number 10 round brush, which I just use in every single sketch, my favourite brush. It's an Escoda Reserva travel brush, if anyone's wondering, but it's an expensive brush, really not necessary. But the size, number 10 round, really, really useful. And you can see how I'm not worrying about staying within the lines. I've got quite a nice ink drawing there, so I don't need to worry about the watercolour being really within the lines and everything. It's gonna just add to the kind of loose, sketchy effect if you use a big brush and you're kind of not too tight with the watercolour aspect of things. And right now we're just laying down our base colours anyway, and later on we can start to refine a few things with the smaller brush. But yeah, it just gives it a really effortless, nice, loose effect, I think. So again, putting some yellow down and letting the green meld into it. It's my favourite way just to capture foliage quite quickly. and make it look interesting. And we've got quite a nice bit of foliage around this scene. Again, not being completely exact with what's in the picture, but trying to get the basic idea of where the foliage is in the scene. It's nice because it does bring in some strong colour as opposed to the fairly neutral colour of the building that's there at the moment. I am going to amplify it a little bit, but I don't really want to take too much away from the Sagrada Familia, which is in the middle of the page. So I didn't go too strong with the yellow ochre or whatever. I'm keeping it quite restrained just because it's a supplementary sketch. I don't really want it to be to take any attention away from kind of the middle part of the sketchbook spread, really. So it's interesting, I have treated all of these as their own individual sketches, but now as we're kind of coming to the end, I am sort of paying attention to how whatever I add balances with what's already on the page. So again, yeah, don't want to overpower anything too much. This is just like bonus sketches in a way. As I said in the last episode, I could have left this sketchbook spread how it was, and I think it would have been really cool. And in the top blank areas, I could have done some lettering or some, some journaling, some notes, that kind of thing. And I've seen a few of you guys are following along, which is amazing, and I think you're having a lot of fun with this. Some of you have got different orientation sketchbooks to what I've got. So I've got like an A4 sketchbook that's opened out flat. Some of you have got kind of like a landscape orientation books. So you might not necessarily want to even add this sketch or the next sketch in the next episode. You might actually want to leave that blank space and do some lettering and that kind of thing. So don't feel you need to do exactly what I'm doing, especially if you're struggling for space. Keep your artistic eye on things and think, okay, maybe actually I should stop here and then I'll have space for some nice lettering, because I do want to add another sketch to that top right hand page, but I'm not leaving myself room for any lettering, which is fine. I don't necessarily need to do lettering. It's not something I really do very often. But I did have in my mind it would be nice to just add in at least like the name Gaudi somewhere, but maybe it doesn't need it. I mean, it's so obvious that this is Gaudi that, I mean, maybe it doesn't need any lettering. I just thought it would be nice for demonstration purposes to add that. So you guys do you keep an eye on what is going to work best for your spread. But I just wanted to show you what I'm doing with mine. So I've added some darker tones in the shadows in the building at the top there, just to kind of give the whole thing a bit more depth. It was feeling a bit flat. If your sketch is feeling a bit flat, the best thing you can do is try and add some darker areas somewhere, and that's instantly just going to give it more depth and make it look more interesting and more contrasty. So I forgot the checkerboard over on the left there, so I've just drawn that in quickly. And just like I said, I was feeling like I just needed a few more darker areas. So I'm just adding a bit of darker green into little bits of the foliage. Got to keep your eye on things, make sure you're not taking it too far. Before you know it, your whole sketch has got like dark parts all over it. And it's like, okay, now there's like not too many light bits, and it's harder to get the light bits back, right? So here I'm just picking up what I've got to hand. This happens to be a 0.7 fine liner. It's probably a little thicker than I would have aimed for, but I just wanted to get some thick ink lines onto the sketch just to bring some of those columns forward a bit and just to try and create a bit more depth. So on the underside of some of this roof area, just adding a few thicker lines just to create a little more emphasis. Otherwise, yeah, all my line weights were the same and quite thin. So you'll remember I didn't need to do this stage in the last episode with the Sagrada Familia because I was using a Fude fountain pen, which you can get different line weights with depending on which way you use it. So now one of my favourite things that I always carry around with me, along with my pens and watercolour, are these Faber-Castell Pit Artist pens in various shades of grey. They're just so handy just to add in really quick little bits of shadow, just to bring things forward even more. So on the underside of this this kind of roof area, just really, really quick with the marker pen, so much quicker than the watercolor. And you can be a little more controlled as well, I find. So I just love those pens, and as I said, I always carry them around with me just to add cheeky little bits of shadow or that kind of thing. And then just adding a little bit of sky into this sketch. I could have left the sky white, blank, it could have been fine, but yeah, just felt like adding a bit of cerulean blue up there to bring some sky in. And I'm feeling pretty happy with this sketch. I think it's a nice little supplementary sketch. I think it looks like the scene. Is it completely accurate? No, but I'm totally fine with that. Again, it's just a nice quick impression of a place that I imaginarily have been to. So that's kind of the purpose for this sketch, or for this whole sketchbook spread. I am pretending that I'm exploring Gaudi in Barcelona, and that I'm just trying to walk around and capture reasonably quick sketches, i.e. ideally under 1 hour. So I'm really happy with this sketchbook spread. It's really coming together nicely. I can see that quite a few of you are following along, which is so cool. I'm really enjoying seeing your sketches. Some people are sharing on Instagram, some are just emailing me, both are fine. Whichever you feel more comfortable with. Next episode will be the last episode where we fill in that top right corner. I think I have an idea of what I'm going to put there, but who knows, let's see what happens. So I'll see you in the next episode.